Good morning, Dwelling Place. It's really good to be able to be with you today. I know we're sitting at home on our sofa with a cup of coffee to be able to say good morning, but it's the day and age of which we're living, and we're learning to do church a different way and zooming in, and we're just really thankful for that.
And we hope that real soon we'll be able to do this in person, and we would love to come in person and share with you face to face. But for now, as Bonnie said, this is the best we can do. We snuck away this week. Don't tell her, Money. But we snuck away and we shot this video for you. And we hope that it will be an encouragement and a challenge to you in the days that we are living in. One of the things that I'm very concerned with is that the church is not persevering. And so we want to share with you a message about how to persevere through COVID-19. And so we hope again that this will be an encouragement to you. Now, what you need to know on the video is that maybe you do know this, but in 2017, we went through a major crisis in my health. I had a stroke which affected my speech. I was fortunate that my body was protected and there was no paralysis in my extremities, but my voice was gone. And so I had to learn to speak again. My voice came back different, and I have what's called aphasia as well. So my words are slurry at times, and sometimes I try to look for the word and I can't find it. So you might notice that I'm searching for words. But we try to share as best as we can. Some people think I'm from Quebec.
Or the Swedish Muppet.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but they think I have a French accent, but I don't. It's because of the stroke. I have a stroke accent. And so it comes across in a different way. I say to people many times that God took away my voice and gave me a new voice to be a voice for those who don't have a voice when it comes to mental wellness. And inside the church, it's a very huge stigma. And so Agora tries to lessen the stigma and educate and equip and engage the church. So this is what this video is about, persevering and how we can endure through this, and not just endure, but really come flourish on the other end. So we'll see you on the other side of this video. So sit back, enjoy, and let God speak to your hearts. So now that we're here, I want to tell you a little bit about our story. On July 7, 2017, I had a major stroke, which really devastated my life in many ways. And after about a month of recovery from that stroke, I began to go down the hardest battle of my life. I suffered a severe mental health breakdown. I suffered PTSD. I had severe panic attacks. And also I had a hard time with depression. Even before the stroke, I was suffering with a clinical depression and I didn't know it. But this medical crisis really intensified that mental illness that I was carrying so long. The road was so hard for me. And at times, I didn't know if I was going to make it through, but God's goodness led to an ongoing restoration of my soul. And God used this story, this crisis, to birth something in me and in our life.
Because of our story, Agora Network Ministries was birthed. Agora Network Ministries is part of our crisis, both physical, mental, and spiritual. This crisis affected us as a couple and us as a family. Our desire as Agora Network Ministries is that we remove the stigma of mental health within the walls of the church, even in the walls of society. We want to bring the church and its leadership and congregation to mental wellness. Why do we seek to move the church towards mental wellness? I'm going to lead you a little bit about our story. At the time of our crisis, we did go to the church for help. And as good as the church was and the spiritual directions that they gave us was wonderful, but it didn't meet the need of the mental issue that was taking place within our lives. So that led us to a huge question. Does this happen in every church? Amy Simpson talks about mental health in the church. She says that speaking about mental wellness in the church, family members need to know that the church is there to help and to help break the silence. She also maintains those that are living with mental illness or those who are supporting others with mental illness need to speak and be heard in the church. They need the church to break its own silence as well. Amy continues by saying, the silence sends a clear message that God is not interested in their suffering. Serious problems have no place in the church, and that our faith has no answers for hardships like theirs.
So we have to understand some facts about mental health in the church. And the first thing that I did when I was studying for this, I looked to the pastors and the members of the church to see if they were aligned together about their perspective of mental health inside the church. And so, first of all, the pastor's view on mental wellness in the church. 90% believe the church has a moral and spiritual responsibility to provide resources and support to those with mental illness and their families. And that's a wonderful stat. But also, pastors indicated they wanted to help and believe the church should be a resource for mental wellness for their people. In spite of that fact, about 49% of pastors said they rarely or never speak on the subject to their churches in sermons or group messages. And only 33% of pastors spoke to their churches more than once a year. So that was the pastor's view of mental wellness in the church. Now, what about the church members' views on mental health in the church? So fewer number than pastors believe their churches offer resources. In fact, 70% of pastors said they had a list of mental health supports for the church. But less than 30% of the members had the same perception.
So what is the church to do? There's a significant gap in what pastors say the churches provide and what members think is available. Here are some COVID-19 stats. Currently, the people in Canada, 71% are feeling nervous, anxious, or even on edge. 69% easily get annoyed or irritable. I'm not sure if that affects us or not, but maybe. 64% are having trouble to even relax. And 1 out of 20 are having suicidal thoughts. This is staggering. Parents with children under the age of 18, which is 9%, are considering suicide.
So the word perseverance means this: to continue in a course of action in the face of difficulty or with little or no prospect of success. So how does the church persevere through COVID-19, through this pandemic? I want to share with you a couple of biblical principles that share with us how we persevere, how we get through this difficult time in our world and in the church.
So Romans 5:3-5 says, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that our sufferings produce perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit, which He has given to us."
What I love about this verse is when Paul speaks to the Roman church, he says, not only so. Prior to this verse, we have Paul talking about how he's rejoicing in his justification and peace with God. What a wonderful truth that is. But now he's saying, not only so, so there's another part to his joy. He says, but we also glory in our sufferings. Now, who likes to glory in their sufferings, right? Not too many people. And I know I didn't, and I know most people don't. But he goes on to say, because he can glory in his sufferings or brokenness, he knows that his suffering produces something. And what it produces, it's perseverance, endurance. Because perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. And so as we, as believers in the church, want to move forward in this difficult time, we have to also glory or put our hope in the fact that our suffering will produce perseverance as we go through this time. So the first principle that I want to bring out to you is this: how does the church persevere in this pandemic through COVID-19? Well, number one, we need to continue to stay the course. Again, I love this verse, 1 Corinthians 15:58. It says this, and again, Paul is speaking to churches in the city of Corinth, and he says to them, they were going through a very difficult time. And he says, therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. I love that word, stand firm. He just doesn't say stand firm or stand, but he says stand in a certain way. He says stand like a rock. And then he goes on to say this: let nothing move you. Let nothing rock you. And we're seeing that COVID-19 is rocking a lot of people, even people inside the walls of the church. Many people are struggling with fear and uncertainty, even though we're believers and we know that God is in control. But Paul says, let nothing move you, let nothing rock you. And then he goes on to say, always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord. That doesn't change, because the work of the Lord goes on in each generation. And so he said, I want to admonish you to stand firm and let nothing rock you, because there's the work of the Lord to continue to do. And even though this pandemic is very scary for us, as the church, we continue to move forward. So we have to continue to stay the course.
Unlike those caught off guard by the coronavirus, historians have for a long time recognized pandemics as part of the human experience. The coronavirus outbreak is far from the first pandemic humanity has ever faced. Yet living through such a historic event still leaves us gasping for understanding. Alan and I were just talking about this, that this is our first pandemic. Most of us, if we have elderly parents, they might have already been through one, so they can relive it. They know. For us, we've always lived in such prosperity, never anything that was big or eventful that really has impacted our lives as much as the coronavirus.
So history tells us that this is not our first rodeo, so to speak, when it comes to a pandemic. Throughout the centuries, in the Old Testament, even in the New Testament, we read of viruses and plagues and pandemics. You go back to the 1500s, where Martin Luther in Europe and the Black Plague, he dealt with that as a leader in the church. And also, when in the 1800s, Moody, the same thing, when Europe was struck with a pandemic and virus, he also helped the church to survive in this pandemic that they faced.
Number 2, continue to strengthen our hands. Nehemiah 6:9 says, they were all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak for the work. and it will not be completed. But Nehemiah prayed, now strengthen my hands.
I love this verse as well, because in many ways we're like the people of God that served Jeremiah when they went back to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And he knew that there was many people intimidating them to stop the work. But he went to God. He went to God and prayed. I love the prayers of Nehemiah. If you go back into the first chapter, he just says this, help God. But now in chapter 6, he's also asking God to do something very amazing. He is being threatened by the people outside of Jerusalem to stop the work. They were being intimidated. And now he says, but I prayed, God, now strengthen our hands. And so that's a wonderful prayer. And the word strengthening our hands means to really strengthen our resolve as a church. Through this pandemic, we need to pray the same prayer. God, strengthen our resolve in the midst of this intimidating virus, in the midst of this pandemic and uncertainty and fear. You know, there's a lot of people in crisis. You can see on the news, you can hear it on Facebook. We see it everywhere. And maybe today you're really in crisis and you're feeling uncertain as a believer as well. But again, how does the church keep their resolve and stay the course in this pandemic?
We need to be practical. Plan ahead. What is the need in the church and the community? Know your community. Know your church. What are the things that we need to have in place? Have supports in place. What resources are available? Check out your community and see what's there that you can make a list so that your congregation are able to have that accessible to them very quickly. And you know what? Stay true to God's mission. Go into the world. Don't be afraid to be the light, especially during these dark times.
So fear and anxiety is at an all-time high. And fear and anxiety about a new disease and what could happen can be overwhelming and cause strong emotions in adults and children. And maybe you're feeling that as well. So when we come to the third principle, I think it helps us with the fear and anxiety of our world and maybe us individually.
3, continue to trust God. Jeremiah 17:7 and 8 says, "But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends its roots out into the stream. It does not fear when the heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries of a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit."
I love this verse that Bonnie just read for us because it talks about a tree and a tree that is strong, and the Lord will bless the one who trusts in him, whose confidence is him, and they will be like a tree. Have you ever thought about yourself being a tree? Some of us are different sized trees, and some of us are short trees, big trees, tall trees, whatever. But we're like a tree. But the tree can be strong when the roots go deep. And when the roots go deep, they will find the stream of water that really secures them and brings life to the tree. It says here, because the roots are by the stream, it does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought, and it never fails to bear fruit. So as a believer in Jesus, when I put my trust and confidence in him, I can be like that tree that's growing strong. And I am not withering when the heat comes. And the heat is just a symbol of any crisis, And we can flourish in the day and also bear fruit. So Another way to stay or persevere through this pandemic is to continue to trust God. You know, many people use this as a cliche, but we also know that Jesus said He's what? He's the living water. And so our roots can go deep in Him, and we can be strong as we partake from the living water, Jesus Christ. So the word trust simply means believe in a reliable truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. So our truth is that we can trust the reliability of Jesus and what He's doing in our midst.
How does the church even make sense of this experience?
So we learn a couple of things. Number one, God is continuing to move and work in our world through this pandemic. Maybe you're asking, where is God in this? Well, God is very central in this pandemic and through this virus, and He always works. So look at how God is working in the world, in the place that you live, in your life as well, because God is always at work. And also we learned this, that today the mental wellness of many people is very weak, and rightly so. And we don't have to rehash those stats, but the mental wellness of many people is very low, and it's concerning. So the church has a great opportunity. And this is where Agora Network comes in, because the church has this great opportunity to support those that are struggling during this pandemic. And that's really what Agora Network does. We want to move the church towards mental wellness. We want to provide supports and resources to the pastor, to the layperson, to the people that are really struggling with their mental health during these days. So yes, God is continuing to move and work in our world, and I hope that you were encouraged by that. Number two, maybe your mental wellness is not good. And so I always say that it's okay to not be okay. We can be okay later as we allow these supports to help us in our struggle. So as we close our time with you today, thank you for having us, and we feel really privileged to be able to share with you. But again, we want to let you know that Agora has many online services right now.
Remember, Agora Network Ministries is here for you. We would love for you to follow us on agoranetworkministries.com. There you will find so many resources, blogs, stories. Our professional team is also there.
We also want to hear from you. Please, if you're struggling and you don't know what to do as a pastor or leader, please get a hold of us just by going to agoranetworkministries.com. We're back, and we hope that you enjoyed and were challenged and encouraged by this video that we were able to share with you. Again, we want you to know that we hope to be in person in months to come, and maybe we can get back to the dwelling place and see you face to face. We have great initiatives in our ministry that we want to share with you in person, but for now we have to share with you online. So Bonnie is going to tell you more about our new website and how to get a hold of us and check out those things.
So we do have a new website that we just launched, and we would love for you to subscribe to it. So just go to agoranetworkministries.com and hit subscribe button. And that's just one way of you being able to connect with us even a little bit more. You can also send us messages through there if there's anything that we can do to help, or any resources that you may need. On our website, you will see lots of stuff. There's blogs, there's information, there's library of books. I'd like to highlight a book that Alan and I wrote.
Yes.
And it's called The Beautiful Strokes of God. And you can actually purchase that right online through our website. So we would love for you to be able to have one of those. Also, in the day and age of which we live, social platforms are the way that we are able to communicate and make Agora known. So we are on Facebook, and we are also on Instagram.
Yeah.
So we would love for you to like and follow, share it with your friends.
Yeah.
This is how these things get known, and we want not only the church to know about Agora,
That's right.
we also would love for our communities to know about Agora.
That's right. So we're so glad to be with you today, and we pray for a great day, a great Sunday, and know that you're in our prayers, and we think about you, and we just want to say thank you to Pastor Jamie for this invite, and so blessings on you, and may we see each other in person real soon. So goodbye for now.
Take care.